my dad sent me 1 year worth of living expenses يعني tuition, rent, food, كل شيء. وقال لي you have to learn how to budget. إنه ما حبعت لك شيء للسنة اللي بعدها. أنت تعلم كيف structure يعني your expenses. I went all in with my tuition and my rent on one biotech stock. The thing I think that differentiated me wasn't like قول زكاة or anything. I think it was attitude. بعدين بيجي واحد لعنده ما بيعرفه خيي. بيقول له أنت إنه خيو لكريم هيتاني بيقول له إيه؟ بيقول له طب شو بيك قاعد عم تعمل SAT ما خيك على فوربس. 3/4 درايفرز بينزلوا بنفس الأوتيل درايفرز والتيم وهيك. ثاقبت إنه أوضتي كان دغري حد أوضة الكلير. It's an obsession. إنه بتحس عن جد you're losing it.
شو رأيك بالكريبتو؟
أوكي.
شو أكبر ريتيرن عملتوه؟ In terms of percentage.
In terms of percentage.
قبل ما نكمل الحلقة تأكدوا تزورونا على موقعنا hightech.com بحال بدكم تدعمونا. اشتركوا معنا كرمال تقدروا تحصلوا على حلقات مختصرة وبلاي ليست.
بالإضافة إذا كان عندك عمل تجاري أو بودكاست عبالك تبلشها أو تكبرها تعرف على جميع خدماتنا من استشارة بودكاست تسويق رقمي وإنتاج. وآخر شي بطلبوا منكم سبسكرايب on يوتيوب وتابعونا على جميع مواقع التواصل. هلأ خلينا نكمل الحلقة.
He's a friend from IC. He's a Forbes 30 under 30 honoree. He's a Formula 1 ex-employee. He's a hedge fund manager currently. Ladies and gentlemen, with us today is Karim Aitani. Welcome Karim to Higher Tech.
يا أهلا بكريم.
Thank you for having me. Damn, that intro was overwhelming شوي.
We're loving it.
عن جد set the bar high شوي.
كريم يعني نحن هلا obviously I mentioned all these things. It's never been a secret ever since we were small kids. You were always ambitious. You were always driven. You were the golden boy. It was known, and now it's coming into fruition. If you
كان golden boy بالIC.
golden boy. كريم يعني عن جد اسم الله يعني نحن وصغار.
Thank you.
نحن وصغار we knew he was special. We knew he was destined for success. والحمد لله هلا everything's coming into fruition. كريم هلا if you want to reverse engineer all the accolades that I just mentioned, how did they all unfold?
Okay, it starts when I was like 15. أنا كل حياتي I used to love cars. You know, I was very interested in like the way cars work, mechanics and stuff like that. So I was a big Porsche fan because all engineering geeks tend to be Porsche fans because of how well designed their cars are. So كان في emission scandal على Volkswagen. And they couldn't ship any more cars to the US. So their stock crashed 50%. I was reading about the emission scandal. Volkswagen owns Porsche, by the way. And then I saw what was happening. And then at the end, they describe what's happening with the company financially and the stock. So it got me interested in the market. يعني. فباقي كان عنده brokerage account. ما عم بيعوزه. قلت له إنه خلينا أحط هيك a couple $100 بالaccount. بدي أشتري Volkswagen stock لأنه تصير أنا هيك shareholder ببورش يعني. فهمت قصدي إنه like هيك it makes you feel some ownership يعني. I was like 15, so it sounded cool to me يعني. So that's how I started getting into the market. While I was in هيك صرت أفتح different stocks يعني طلع Apple, Amazon, like all the things like you use at home تشوف إنه شو عندها stocks. So هيك it just like sparked my curiosity. فبلشت أقرأ كتير كتب كتير يعني. I started with The Intelligent Investor. هذا Buffett calls it like the Bible of investing. It's like about like old school traditional investing. وبلشت هيك يعني I started stock picking شوي قاعد أعمل portfolio. وهيك عجبتني الشغلة. In my first year of college, my dad sent me 1 year worth of living expenses يعني tuition, rent, food, كل شيء. وقال لي you have to learn how to budget. إنه ما حبعت لك شيء للسنة اللي بعدها. أنت تعلم كيف structure يعني your expenses. It starts when I was like 15. أنا كل حياتي I used to love cars. You know, I was very interested in like the way cars work, mechanics and stuff like that. So I was a big Porsche fan because all engineering geeks tend to be Porsche fans because of how well designed their cars are. So كان في emission scandal على Volkswagen. And they couldn't ship any more cars to the US. So their stock crashed 50%. I was reading about the emission scandal. Volkswagen owns Porsche, by the way. And then I saw what was happening, and then at the end they describe what's happening with the company financially in the stock, so it got me interested in the market يعني. فبي كان عنده brokerage account ما عم بيعوزه. قلت له إنه خليني أحط هيك a couple $100 بالأكاونت. بدي أشتري فولكسواجن ستوك لأنه تصير أنا هيك shareholder ببورش يعني. فهمت قصدي إنه like هيك it makes you feel some ownership يعني. I was like 15, so it sounded cool to me يعني. So that's how I started getting into the market. While I was in هيك صرت أفتح different stocks يعني طلع Apple, Amazon, like all the things like you use at home تشوف إنه شو عندها stocks وهيك it just like sparked my curiosity. فبلشت أقرأ كتير كتب كتير يعني. I started with The Intelligent Investor. هذا Buffett calls it like the Bible of investing. It's like about like old school traditional investing. وبلشت هيك يعني I started stock picking شوي قاعد أعمل portfolio وهيك عجبتني الشغلة. In my first year of college, my dad sent me 1 year worth of living expenses يعني tuition, rent, food, كل شيء. وقال لي you have to learn how to budget. إنه ما حبعت لك شيء للسنة اللي بعدها. أنت تعلم كيف structure يعني your expenses. قلت له okay. وقتها I had just gotten into biotech and medical device investing. إنه اطلع على which companies are about to go public. وهدول بيطلعوا بيكون بعد ما عليهم مثلا analyst ratings وبعد ما حدا عطى their opinion on them وهيك. وقعد أعمل like I'd go deep dive into the research on what they do exactly on their research data كل هالأشياء. ولما لقي something that's promising وشكله حيطلع له FDA approval I'd buy. I started doing that. It started working really well. And then at one point I got too confident and I don't advise anyone to do this, by the way. Like anyone listening, you should never take like this much risk with money that you're going to use for the following year. Yani. So I went all in with my tuition and my rent on one biotech stock that I was very confident they're going to get approved by the FDA. 2 months later, they did, and the stock tripled in value from like $35 a share to 90 something a share. And then I got so excited. وكان عندي like enough cash costs for the rest of my college and I don't need to rely on my parents anymore basically. It was very exciting as an 18-year-old. The same day when I cashed out, there was a car I used to love, BMW 4 Series. My friend had it in Beirut, كنا نظهر معه وهيك بدي اشوفها هيك اتحطت عيني عليها. فدغري I cashed out. قلت له لرفيقي بسان دييغو وطلعنا سوا على LA. لقينا وحده هيك exactly the spec I wanted. I bought it بأرضها and then I called my dad on FaceTime. ففرجي بي السيارة وبقول له إنه شو رأيك بالسيارة وهيك. يوم هو بيقول لي إيه اسم الله إنه كتير حلوة. لمين هاي؟ بقول له هاي سيارتي. بيقول لي إنه من وين جبت المصاري إنه تشتري سيارة وهيك فهمت قصدي إنه he got confused. قلت له what I did يعني قلت له إنه عملت هيك وهيك وهيك وشريت السيارة and then هيك there was like silence on the phone. إنه حسيته هيك إنه he was disappointed that I took a risk that big بس كمان إنه you can be a bit proud إنه فهمت قصدي it worked out يعني الحمد لله. قال لي بتعرف لو خسرتهم كنت رجعتك على بيروت. بعدين قلت له إيه بس خلاص إنه ما خسرتهم. قال لي طيب يلا مبروك. And then I told my friends about it وهيك أشياء هيك كل حدا تحمس. فقالوا لي إنه نحن بدنا to invest معك. وقتها أنا I was in college studying mechanical engineering يعني because the cars naturally plus my dad was a mechanical engineer. My brother هلا واختي يعني كل العائلة mechanical engineering. فأنا عم بدرس قلت لهم my friends القصة وقالوا لي إيه خلينا نحط معك. بلشوا small amounts قول 5-10k كل حدا هيك يحط شوي وعم بعطيهم returns. And then their dads got interested and their dads friends. فكل حدا بلش هيك يحط وهيك naturally كبر البورتفوليو بس إنه I can't just trade without an entity. فهيك after 4 years of doing it it grew to a size where I had to cash out and give everyone back their money because it didn't make sense to do that big of amounts يعني وبلا regulation وهيك فهمت قصدي you just can't do that. فرجعت لكل حد المصاري وقلت خلص حاشتغل بانجينيرينج وهيك. وقتها فتت فورمولا 1 كمان كل شيء بيرجع ل cars و passion for engineering إذا بدك. فت فورمولا 1 كنت أعمل ديزاين للباور ترين على ريد بول ريسينج كنت سافر على الريسز وهيك يروح مثلا Thursday Friday Saturday يكون عندي كل الشغل مثلا نشوف داتا نحكي مع التيم هيك أشياء. بعدين on Sunday race day ما عندي شيء اعمله لانه خلص انه السياره racing فهمت قصدي. فكنت اطلع على شيء اسمه paddock club. هو it's like the place دغري فوق ال شو اسمه وين الجراجز تبعوا الفورمولا 1 دغري فوقه. وهنيك في كتير انه بيكون في انه bankers وهيك all types of people you know. وهيك celebrities انه I met like Tim Cook there, Serena Williams تشوفها هنيك انه there's a lot of people usually in the paddock club. اتعرف على بانكرز وقعد اقول لهم عن انه احكيهم فاينانس ما اقول لهم انا انجينير قعد احكي عن فاينانس فهمت قصدي. وبهالوقت كنت عم بدفع للوير يفتح لي legal entity so I can start trading for people again because everyone wanted to go back into the portfolio. قلت لواحد هنيك انه ايه I'm a hedge fund manager بعد ما طلع لي ال SEC approval انه هي ال regulating body بامريكا for financial institutions. فقلت له واحدة I'm a hedge fund manager يعني كنت هيك I was very excited بعد طلع لي الابروفل وهيك. اما سألني عن my strategy وهيك قلت له and then قال he wants to invest. قلت له okay يلا here's the account انه بس I didn't think he would invest because we had just talked about the fund for like 10-15 minutes. The rest بس هيك قعدنا تسيرنا بعدين after race هيك I went out with the guy and his friends we had dinner فهمت قصدي. I saw him for a weekend. بعد اسبوع بيبعت لي البانك ديتيلز والاجريمنتس بعت له بس I'm not expecting anything. انا I started the fund قلت انه the people that were invested with me before بيحطوا معي he wired like a sizable amount يعني. so برضه ماشي رحت I quit my job قلت خلص I'm just gonna
hedge fund
do the hedge fund ان شاء الله for the rest of my life يعني. فقلت خلص and then that's basically how it started. and من وقتها انه I've still like you're always fundraising as a hedge fund manager يعني. I'm still fundraising بس انه خلاص portfolio's functional and running everything's like set so I'm up and running now.
And do you raise the DeFi assets under management?
So لهلا just under $20 million assets under management. The first guy was 4 of them. You'd see why I quit دغري. بس ايه انه I'm still trying to like grow the team, grow the fund as a financial institution you know. so like like the more investors I get the higher the revenue gets but the more I'd spend to grow the company you know. so yeah that's how it's going so far.
يعني يغزل عين عكل هالحديث اكيد عطشت. خلينا شوي هيدي فتحت thank you احمد فتحت my family business recently عن تبلة.
We used to go a lot to بيروت أنا وأهلي.
best cocktails.
هيدي عن تبلة تانية.
هاي كلها لإلي يعني.
منتد ليمونيد. هيدي
شو بدك؟
لا هيدي ليمونيد وهيدي ستروبيري. لكن هيدا هو العصير جربوه كتير طيب. صحة شباب إن شاء الله تكونوا تحبوه.
لا كتير طيب.
كتير طيب. لبنيز كلاسيك.
طيب أحمد.
خيل عيتاني بعد هالحديث كله صحة حبيبي. بعد هالحديث الحلو الانترودكشن الحلوة يعني you tackled a lot of topics. حكيتنا من الجامعة كيف أول شي بيك عطيك مصاري أخذتهم حطيتهم تربلتهم. رجعت عملت ميكانيكال انجينير فتت فورمولا 1. قبل الفورمولا 1 ما بعرف لو اشتغلت كمان مرة you mentioned to me أنه كنت تشتغل مع المارينز
US Navy battleship
بس
هيك 3 month internship يعني
بس منيحة يعني.
ساعدت
ايه فورمولا 1 بعدين قلبت لهاتش فند
مزبوط.
يعني أنا أول سؤال شو دار براسك نقلت من هون لهونيك كيف يعني is it just يعني هو الباشن تبعك الفاينانس أو الباشن تبعك الميكانيكال انجينير كيف كنت من هون لهونيك؟
اوكي قبل ما اقول لك شو دار براسي بس بدي اقول شيء عن engineering basically. انا لإلي engineering it's not just about like learning the material you're learning like a analytical problem solving approach. فهمت قصدي انه you learn how to approach anything from a very logical analytical perspective. فبحس the approach you learn from engineering كثير بيساعد in any aspect of life وin my case حسيته ساعدني كثير in finance. basically انه ايه مزبوط انا كثير حبيت engineering وبحب اشتغل كانجينير بس finance انه مثل ما قلت لك بالقصه انه it just happened تقريبا. فهمت قصدي انه صار شغله ورا شغله. it was a series of events that like threw me in this position وانه the opportunity presented itself and I decided to take it. it was من ورا انه كل هالاشياء combined وبلس كمان in like مثلا hedge funds وهيك أشياء it's exciting you know no you're always on the edge of your seat you know you're dealing with a lot of people's مثلا all savings وهيك you have a huge responsibility فهيك it keeps you on your toes طول الوقت وأنا I like that and I feel like I work better under pressure you know I feel like that was هيك
ايه لا اكيد
the main reason
بس
for the
بتعرف
transition
برهنت شغله انه كل واحد يعني مثلا اذا عامل شيء خبره بالجامعه ما ضروري to stick to it
أبدا
يعني انت you self learned the world of finance the world of stock mechanical engineering ما بيعلموك هالقصص
صح
فكيف تعلمت حالك هالقصص
فهو إنه I've read at least like 30 to 40 books on finance I've read like even the college books مثلا مع كل formulas وغير reading I've spoke to a lot of people in the industry مثلا in the US in Canada London Middle East I asked them all my questions مثلا all the gaps that all the books or even Google doesn't fill I was privileged enough to have good access to people that are well in the industry في منهم like industry veterans that have been there for like 40 years like after talking to a lot of people it's as a bit like I started when I was 15 I opened the fund at 24 so it was like a 9-year learning process فهمت قصدي yeah no everything combined is what مثلا helped me really understand it يعني the people plus the books plus like reading watching I used to watch TV كمان كتير about like finance with the markets هدول like the daily shows you know هذا اسمه Squawk Box on CNBC I watch a lot فهيك it gave me like good insight وبلس كمان عسيرة انه going to college انه ما تعمل شيء خاصه ب your major أنا دايما I give this advice to people that are like about to go to college إنه كل حدا بيفكر بالميجر specifically إنه شو بدي نقي major أنا بحب أدرس هدول السبجكتس so I feel like it's very short-sighted that thinking إنه أنت you should think what you want to do with the major afterwards فهمت قصدي إنه فكتير عالم بيسألوني إنه ما بعرف شو نقي major بحب الماث بحب physics هيك مثلا هيك أسئلة هو أنت شوف where you imagine yourself after you leave college what office building you imagine yourself walking into, what do you imagine yourself doing, where do you imagine yourself going, and then see the majors that complement this. I always knew I want to do something like that's very quantitative, logical, mathematical, so engineering was the natural way. فهمت قصدي ما ضروري like best car design it applied to everything.
Exactly. انت you mentioned قبل وقت قلت انه بتطلع على engineering مش انه as something I wanna like abide by. It's like a tool. You craft your tool. You want something analytical وهلا it makes perfect sense when you say okay انه اعملوا شيء قريب على المضمون تبعكم وبعدين انه tailor it مثل ما قلت. كريم انت كنت تشتغل بفورمولا 1 وهلا obviously you're a hedge fund manager both jobs are very demanding. They happen in real time. You need your total focus, determination, commitment. What are some like most important skills that you were able to transfer or maybe similarities that you had in the Formula 1 and you were able to transfer into the hedge fund managing?
Okay, if I'd say one very important thing definitely يعني is like communication skills people management is a bit duck while in Formula 1 in a car all the parts have to work together in like perfect harmony to get good results you have to talk to many different teams and like fill in all the gaps you need to fill in and then when you're on the track and you're going around sometimes you even talk to drivers مثلا the communication skills were very very important. I think they're important on almost any job يعني بس in engineering مثلا دايما you're filling in different people's positions مثلا you tell them give updates هيك أشياء بس you always have to be هيك have like a certain like fluidity to it هيك تكون مرتاح معهم بيرتاحوا معك هيك a certain كمان you have to have a lot of confidence when you're talking to people you'll always get questioned both in engineering and finance why did you do it this way why didn't you do it that way if you're confident with what you do then people tend to like accept it more to be confident you have to back it up يعني مش بس confidence على الفاضي يعني you have to have a reason to be that confident I'd say communication وهالconfidence أكيد بالhedge funds بتعرف I'm always making مثلا نقول investment decisions so I have to be confident with the decisions I'm doing if I make a decision I stick to it if I'm following a strategy I stick to it I try to not like lay away from my strategy too much and كمان communication skills أكيد يعني عندك all your investors people worry about their money as they should they're always asking you questions هيك calling you're always accessible to them هيك تجرب تفسر لهم everything you don't some people that are not into finance you don't have to be too technical with them so yeah أكيد confidence and communication were the most transferable skills from.
ليك خلينا بس نمشي شوي chronologically لا يعرفوا how you built all of these skills. لنبلش بالمدرسة. اوكي انت كنت بالمدرسة apparently golden boy.
الصاب الذهبي.
الصاب الذهبي. فليه كنت الصاب الذهبي؟ شو كنت يعني ليه عندك هالصنف؟ يعني كنت انت اعلى grades؟ كنت that kid that always used to study or كمان كنت تتعاطى مع العالم التاني at the same time؟ عرفت انه كيف كانت your approach towards school؟ كيف عمرت هالفاونديشنز اللي عندك اياهم هلا؟
اوكي ليك حقلك I think انه in school مثلا انه I definitely do not think I'm the smartest person at all. Okay انه I think انه we're all similar in that level in that sense. But the thing I think that differentiated me wasn't like an old zaka or anything. I think it was attitude. انه I tend to be more optimistic than the average person. I feel like. وهيك it was just like my attitude towards everything. انه لما يصير معي شيء that's like not that good أو حتى إنه something horrible يعني أقول مصيبة. You know, the first thing I think of is how am I going to get out of this and what do I do and like how do I figure out to be in a better position. And بس إنه في عالم إنه sometimes you know they just sit and like they struggle with it تقول إنه فهمت قصدي إنه قول nag about it or something. Sometimes it's difficult. There's nothing you can do. بس إنه هيك I always had like that attitude إنه I want to do better. إنه كل ما يصير شيء إنه I have to إنه I can fix it وهيك مدري شو. I think إنه كمان the confidence أكيد helped because you know I was blessed to have مثلا parents that were very supportive to me كل حياتي. I think it gave me a lot of confidence. Even حتى my friends مثلا لما كنا بالمدرسة I felt like هيك you know I had great relationships with all my friends. We all wanted the best for each other. So هيك it helps you. Not everyone has that يعني that's a huge privilege يعني. فالحمدلله I think all these things combined إنه ساعدوني to be in the position I am today. Plus كمان إنه I used to do track and field. It's like an individual sport. So when you keep like إنه training and competing individually, هيك it gives you a sense إنه all the wins are from 100% from what I do. All the losses are from 100% like my fault. فهمت قصدي؟ It gives me like accountability على everything. وكمان إنه winning in track مثلا gave me confidence too. all these things هيك أشياء صغيرة combined إنه just هيك worked out.
100%.
And I forgot كمان to mention he was an athlete ب-IC. وكمان دايما بدود نحن بنجرب نعمل هيدا اللينك إنه when you're an athlete you have a discipline, you have to be committed, you have to give it your all. فأكيد كمان هيدا لعب دور ب your professional life لأنه أنت you know what it takes to win and you know how to bounce back from a loss. فكمان in life especially when you're surrounded by the right support and when you have like some talent مثل ما قلت إنه يمكن كلنا نكون تقريبا بذكى بعض بس هي it's more about execution and taking action. What do you think about taking action versus procrastinating? How much are you surrounded by people that have so many ideas that you think are smart but aren't getting over the hump because they can't take any action?
He بحس إنه most of the people around me that you know have great ideas or very intelligent. It's not just like procrastination. I feel like it's more about like fear. فهمت قصدي؟ إنه they lack that like a level of confidence to just like throw themselves into something new. يقولوا خلص إنه let me just pursue this. To gain that confidence they have to أكيد إنه be well informed about what they're doing and like plan accordingly. But at the end of the day it's not that easy to just like give up on everything and leave and like do your own thing مثلا. No matter how good the idea is you know you have to have a reason to be very confident with it because you're going to face a lot of obstacles على الطريق يعني. You know, some of them are minor هدول يعني كل يومين you're going to face them. But the major ones are where most people stop and most people بيقولوا إنه خلص and I think this is not for me إنه خلص I'll go back to my job هيك شيء. You have to have a lot of confidence to face those major obstacles and like come out the other side like you know bigger like you learn more هيك.
غير confidence كمان الواحد يعني he needs to be ready for a challenge.
Exactly yeah.
هلا to be ready you need to be confident بس كمان overconfident بعد الفوتك كتان. You need to be confident and prudent at the same time.
And it's like informed confidence.
Exactly.
You know when you talk to people in the field مثلا that you're trying to pursue هيك مثلا experts tell them talk about your ideas ومش بس one person مثلا إنه في حيكون في 100 واحد حجرب إنه يقول حطم لك الفكرة يقول لك لا هاي ما كتير بتزبط وهيك. So talk to a lot of like right people وإذا you get like هيك decent advice about it, your friends, family, people that care about you, people like that really want the best for you, مش هيك إنه حدا كيف ما كان. إنه if they trust you enough يعني why don't you trust yourself enough. أنا كمان that was one thing with me إنه كمان about like the privilege of having very supportive friends مثلا إنه and parents إنه أول ما قبل ما كل حدا كان يقول لي إنه hey you should do it, this is a good industry for you وهيك إنه يشجعني. And then when I launched, a lot of my friends and like family, they invested with me. فهمت قصدي؟ فإنه that's another level of trust. إنه مش إنه they're literally putting their money where their mouth is. فهمت قصدي؟ إنه we trust you, we think you'll do great, and قد ما we think you'll do great, we're investing.
بس هيدا لأن you have a career track of proving yourself.
يعني
أول شيء أنه
track record. بس
غير هيك ما أنت عم تقولها friends و family. عمل المدرسة you were doing good. حكينا شوي عن your experience. هلا بنحكي عن your college experience. وين كمان you performed well in terms of grades. بعدين أنا قلت فورمولا 1. بعدين عملت منيح بالستوك ماركت. عندك numbers. فأنه عندك data that proves you can perform well. مش أنه يعني people are not gonna be confident in you. ما حيوثقوا فيك بس لأن بيحبوك. عرفت؟
صح.
في عالم كتير بيحبوا رفقاتهم بس ما حيعطون $100,000 تعمل اللي بدك إياه فيهم. عرفت؟ لازم يكون في
you give them a reason to support.
You give them a reason. بس أنا ما بعرف بدي فوت بالجامعة. ما بعرف إذا بدك تسأل شيء قبل الجامعة.
بدنا نفوت بالجامعة بس كمان كرمال your point. Would you invest in attitude or data? Of course, on data, of course you would blindly invest in a person. But would you invest in your friend if you know he has the right attitude, although he still didn't show any data?
إنه
ما في.
هلك مثلا hiring someone
maybe hiring.
It's about data for me. And I mean attitude. If I'm hiring someone, I need to look at their attitude. They want to learn. مثلا إنه أنا حتى all my hires, إنه they don't come from financial background. I kind of hired like all like software engineers and different types of engineers. I know it's a bit biased, but I wanted that like mathematical approach. فكلهم فاتوا with near zero financial background, but they have that attitude where they want to learn, they're very independent, they figure out things on their own. They go out of their way to solve problems, and it's very, very independent. It's a good work culture and it works for me a lot. But to hire, أكيد it's attitude. To invest, and no matter how good the attitude of my friend is, أكيد it's a big factor in investing. But you still need something. It doesn't have to be data or track record, but you need to have like a good execution plan, a good idea. If he presents me with like a great idea and a solid execution plan, and he has the attitude for it, definitely I would invest.
أكيد.
But if he presents me with the best business plan you can think of, كل numbers check out, everything looks great, but he has a very poor attitude,
exactly,
it doesn't work.
100%. That's what I was looking for.
100% يعني
that applies to stock investments too. يعني إنه عندك CEOs, they have a responsibility towards shareholders. فهن they're the people that are responsible for making shareholders money. So sometimes you have great companies, but you still have to look at the CEO's plan, CEO's attitude, his track record. إنه السيو كتير بيأثر على publicly traded companies, all types of companies يعني. بس إنه even in what I do now, I look at attitude when I'm investing even in public markets. So
مظبوط. طب هلا كمان لننقل على الجامعة. حكينا شوي كيف كانت your attitude بالمدرسة. Okay, you graduated from Beirut, then you went to UC San Diego. طيب خبرنا شوي هونيك شو كنت تعمل. يعني كنت تحكي لي كنت تعمر سيارات بواخر وغولف كارتس مع موتور وكيف كانت الخبرة هونيك وكيف eventually فتت بفورمولا 1.
فهو in freshman year بالجامعة I met a group of people كانوا معي بالصف mechanical engineers.
هيدي السنة وين تربلت المصاري؟
آخر هالسنة واحد منهم هو اللي طلع معي نشر السيارة يعني.
حلو.
they're great friends يعني إنه كنا كتير قراب. إنه ماشي أخذتنا like 6 months to a year صرنا كأنه إخوة ونساعد بعض بكل شيء. مثل ما قلت لكم قبل إنه هذا support system وهيك أشياء. it was a very healthy environment اللي بأمريكا. فبعدين في 5 منهم اللي كانوا mechanical engineers. رحنا أخذنا بيت سوا بساعة شي 6 سيارات 7 سيارات انه في جراج وهيك اشياء.
خدتوا بيت حلو.
انه بيت انه ايه
اذا
شوي
البيت
يعني.
بساعة 7 سيارات كم شخص بيساع؟
لا انه نحن كان همنا الجراج اكثر من البيت، انه كان بدنا لايك ا ورك سبيس.
اوكي.
فاخذنا بيت كبير وصرنا نروح على جانك ياردز نلاقي هيك سيارات قديمه او هيك نفتش على كريجز هيك ويب سايت بامريكا لسكند هاند كارز، نلاقي سيارات قديمه ونجيبها على البيت. كلهم كان بيت معبى يعني، تلاقي ات وان بوينت كان عندنا 16 سياره برا، انه شيون يعني $300 $500. فهمت قصدي؟ مش انه
كنتوا عم بتزبطوا سيارات؟
ايه كنا نشتريهم نحطهم بالجراج انه نشوف اول شيء شو مشكلتهم، بعدين نقعد نصلحهم سوا يعني. one of my friends اللي بالجروب he was really good يعني هو فلسطيني بفلسطين كان يعملها للشغله، فانه we learned a lot from him. هو كتير شاطر يعني، هلا he still does it to this day يعني it's like a hobby. فكنا كلنا نقعد نجيبهم نصلح نتسلى فيها للسياره فتره هيك شي شهر شهرين
بيعوها
ونبيعها.
طب شو اكبر ريتيرن عملتوه اكبر ريتيرن in terms of percentage
in terms of percentage 400%
اوف
اكثر بشوي يعني.
حلو تايمز 4.
هيدي actually it wasn't ما كانت على سياره، كانت على بوت.
كانت عبوت.
هيدي القصه خليني خبرك اياها شوي. كنا قاعدين باللايبرري فاينلز ويك، طقس بجنن كان، انه سان دييغو معروف انه الطقس كتير حلو. قاعدين عم نطلع وهيك انه بتشوف السيجلز عم بيطيروا وهيك، انه بتعرف البيتش فايب يعني، وهو الكامبس على البحر كمان. نحن قاعدين باللايبرري عم ندرس الفاينلز. بعدين واحد من رفقاتي بيجي بيقول انه تخيلوا لو كان عندنا بوت نقعد نظهر فيه نروح على البحر هيك وي جو فيشينج. قلت له ليك ايه فكره انه ليه ما عنا. نحن انا بتذكر انه we're all college students يعني، فهمت قصدي؟ مش انه حنشتري بوت. فتنا على كريجز ليست شفنا واحد عم بيبيع بوت وجولف كارت ب $800.
اوف
اوكي يعني بوث. وقالنا انه هدول there is no way they're gonna run، انه عم بيقلنا البوت صار له 25 سنه هذا تران
شالكم الامل.
ايه قالنا انه عم تحلم يعني. قلنا له ليك خلص بناخذهم، انه خلينا نجي نشوفهم. فتنا شفناهم، نحن ما بنعرف شيء عن بوتس يعني، كنا بس نصلح سيارات، ما بنعرف شيء عن بوتس. نطلع البوت نطلع بنشوف فولفو انجن. فولفو is known for reliability يعني. عم نجي انا ورفقاتي هيك نطلع بعض نقول فولفو ايه خلص اذا فولفو بيتصلح يمشي الحال. فاخذنا وصلنا الزلمه البوت والجولف كارت على البيت، هو منه مصدق يخلص منه انه هو وصلهم يعني. انا $800 قعدنا هيك انه خلصنا فاينلز اكيد. كل شوي هيك نفوت انه نطلع على البوت، هيك حاطينه نحن على تريلر يعني بقلب الجراج. بعدين صلحناه للبوت، قعدنا عليه يعني 2 weeks. It was one of the longest projects we worked on. بعدين نزلناه على البحر اول مره، سقنا فيه لجوا وهيك we were so excited. هلا اذا بدكم كمان بعث لكم الفيديو وين اول مره عم بدور البوت in 25 years. فنزلناه على البحر، بعدين فجاه بنلاقي التمبرتشر بالسما انه طلعنا ما مصلحين الكولينج سيستم. نحن قاعدين نص البحر عم قعدنا نجرب انه هيك كيف بدنا نجره وهيك بنضلنا ندوره ونطفيه نسوق هيك 1 minute at a time. بدنا نرجع قبل العتمه 8 دقيقة بالبحر وهيك. it was like an interesting journey. We learned a lot from it. رجعنا على البيت صلحناه again. We used it for like a year or two. صرنا نطلع انه fishing كل شيء وهالاشياء. بعدين بعناه شارينه هو والجولف كارت 800، بعناه ب$5000 للبوت مثلا.
شو حلوه شو حلوه.
والجولف كارت كمان بدل البطارية كنا حاطين فيه انجن، ف it was a very obnoxious cart.
حطيتوا موتور سيارة على جولف كارت
بقلب جولف كارت ايه.
كيف طار؟
انه اول شيء كنا we're still figuring it out، بلا ترانسميشن ولا شيء، بس انه انجن على اكسل يعني. it was very primal اذا بدك، بس ايه كمان it was fun. هلا I'll send you a clip يمكن you can include
it. طب بس ليك هالقصص كتير حلوة. بحس بالميدل ايست بركي it's these type of things are missing يعني. ما بعرف اذا there's a lot of it. ليك انا كAUB هلا ما كنت engineering، بس بعرف عالم engineering ما بعتقد لهالقد يوصلوا يعني يجيبوا غراض من جانك يارد. ما بعرف لو انت بتعرف شي حدا يعني، بس ما بعرف
شو عمل اللي عم بيعمله تاني.
ايه انه عرفت
ولادي بحياتهم.
لا بس انه هالفكره انه do you think this is something that's missing in the Middle East. بركي ما فيها ال availability of the cars.
هو exactly ما في كتير access على parts. مثلا هونيك بأمريكا في بين كل شارع وشارع في كار بارت ستور يعني فهمت قصدي بتروح اي بارت بدك اياها بتشتريها حتى بوت بارتس انه they're not that difficult to find في كمان a lot of space مثلا ببيروت وين بدك تقعد تحط هالسيارات وبوت و100 شغله فهمت قصدي انه الا اذا عايش برات بيروت فايه sourcing the parts is very difficult بعدين space كمان is a limitation هنيك it's هيك انه it's way more accessible يعني لو كنت هون ما بحس I would have done it
كريم you mentioned something very important ونحن دائما we try to shed light on انه انت وقت وصلت على امريكا you were still very young 18 19 عايش مع 4-5 بالبيت it's very important وهذا الشيء يمكن شوي كليشيه وقت نحكي عنه بس دائما بقول your network is your net worth ولما يكون انت surrounded by people مثلا بينزلوا على الجيم of course you wouldn't stay home you would go to the gym as you're surrounded by people who are creating things حتعمل نفس الشيء هل fixing things in your case حتعمل شيء did this thing confirm in your network is your net worth or did you learn that your network is your net worth
هو اكيد it validated it a lot انا في واحد من رفقاتي اللي كان هنيك هو كمان كان عم بيشتغل بعد فتح ستارت اب قبلي انه بس هيك تشوف يعني كل واحد منهم عمل ستارت اب او عمل شيء وهو انه كنت اساله انه قبل ما يترك انه كنت اقول له انه روق شوي انه دونت ليف ناو انه شو حتعمل اذا بصير هيك شو حتعمل اذا بصير هيك انه انا قاعد I'm analyzing it for him I'm trying to plan it وهيك مدري شو بيضلوا يقول لي انه خلص we'll figure it out when we get there انه فهمت قصدي انه
خد خطوه ورا الثاني
exactly فانا قاعد انه I was overthinking كل شيء لانه at the end of the day انه he's my close friend I want the best for him فهو عم بيقول لي انه خلص انه حاعملها حبلش وكل هيردل انه I'll tackle it when I get there فهيك اكيد كتير ساعدت لي my mentality انه انا لما تركت انه اكيد I didn't know exactly how like full structures of hedge funds و how they run والlegal aspect والSEC وكل هالاشياء بس قلت لك I'll adopt the same approach أكيد before I get investors بعد investors you can't make mistakes with investor money إنه بس قبله إنه قلت إيه فإنه I feel like that attitude منه أكيد كثير ساعدني بعدين regarding like your network is your net worth إنه that's like hedge funds من أكثر محلات when that's applicable
تطبق
إنه ما معقول it's directly proportional إنه هيدا النتورك deposits قد investment معك بعدين انت حسب قد ايه you're able to leverage that network it's directly proportional to قد ايه you're going to be able to raise انه للفند فاكيد يعني
definitely لا the people you surround yourself with are very important وتكبر المعارف تاعولك بتنجحك وين ما كنت بالحياة
حتى attitude wise يعني مثل ما
لا definitely اذا ما عندك attitude منيحة ما حيكون عالم كويسة حواليك كيف فتت F1 كيف كان البروسس what were the requirements كيف واحد إذا حيلا حدا عم بيحضر هلأ حابب يصير part of F1 how can he become part of F1 وخاصة بعد ما يتخرج من الجامعة
هلا كونيك الجوب ماركت was انه بكاليفورنيا it's pretty competitive يعني فانه by the time I graduated قدم لي شي 250-300 positions ل4 offers بالاخر ف it was a difficult
قدمت
process
ل 250 positions
250 to 300 يعني it took a lot يعني my resume was stacked كمان مش انه شيء بس still يعني you know it was a bit difficult فكنت تروح على
فتت F1
ايه كنت تروح على كل الكارير فير قبل F1 قصدي كنت تروح على كل الكارير فيرز meet with recruiters فهمت قصدي انه افهم بس الجو شوي مرة كنت ماشي على career fairs وانا قبل career fair كنت تروح كتير systematic انه اطبع my resumes هيك على cardboard so it can stand out بالستاك فهمت قصدي هيك اشياء وهيك قبل ما اروح بيكون في ليست كل الشركة اللي حيكونوا هنيك وانا بحط the ones I want to target وبفوت وخلاص بفوت بعملهم كلهم وبطلع انا وماشي هاي الشركة ما كنت I was targeting it هن بيعملوا انه torque sensors لكل السيارات على فورمولا 1 it's like it's a type of thing you put on F1 cars يعني to measure power بيحطوها على كمان الشافتس على الباور ترين يعني كل شيء along الباور ترين هنا انه بيشتغلوا عليه انا وماشي بالكارير فير بلاقي بس صورة F1 كار هيك انه واحد بانر وستاند في هيك صورة فورمولا 1 كار قلت انه انه شو عم بيصير رحت حكيت معهم قلت لهم I'm very interested in Formula 1 I don't know what you guys do بس انه بدي افهم يعني ليه في صورة F1 فسر لي يلي كان هونيك was actually the founder of the company يعني هو كان يحب
founder of what company
الكومباني أنا كنت أشتغل فيها هو he was a very very good manager يعني he always engaged مع كل حدا فبحس إنه تحسه إنه هيك إنه he picks كل حدا بالشركة إنه everyone was handpicked إنه I used to love كل my coworkers يعني إنه he was a very very good إنه CEO يعني فهو كان قاعد هونيك بلشت أحكي معه طلع هو عربي كمان by the way سوري بس born and raised in New York great guy يعني قعدنا نحكي أنا وياه وقلت له قد إيه I'm interested هاي كانت around like all January عطيته my resume قال لي إيه معقول يكون عنا internship وهيك ومدري شو قال لي يلا بحكيك بتعرفها هيدي
يلا بحكيك
التنيمة يعني
ايه اكبر بحكيك
وعربي كمان يعني
اصل التنيمه.
فقلت له ايه اعطيني your contact info كمان هيك حكينا شوي من January لجون كل شي 2 weeks ابعت له ايميل hi I would like to follow up on هيك لانه خلص انه I know this is what I want انه
بس برافو this is being persistent.
I was extremely persistent معه وكل شوي اقول له انه like a new update مثلا نقول انه اجت فتره كنت انا اعمل ريسيرش بلاب مع بروفيسور قال له انه we just did this today فهمت قصدي انه كل مره شيء جديد مش بس I would like to follow up on the status of my application.
كان يرد عليك
مرات ايه مرات لا يعني كل شيء 4 ايميلز يمكن. بعدين بالاخر بجون كنت قاعد باللايبرري بدق لي بيقول لي ايه we'd like to offer you الانترنشيب وهيك كيفت رحت اشتغلت معهم صيفيه وانه I had a great time معهم يعني انه عم بقول لك كل حدا هونيك is great يعني صراحه لو ما كنت عم بفتح فند مستحيل كنت اترك يعني شركه انه it was such a good environment كثير بيعطوك ownership هيك اشياء. فبعدين صار كوفيد وانا كنت بارت تايم انترن انا وبالجامعه يعني بعد الصيفيه كفيت كبارت تايم انترن صار كوفيد و I got laid off basically انه بتعرف وضع كوفيد. بعد ما كوفيد باس كنت انا خلص مخرج من الجامعه قلت لهم انه I graduated كنت وقتها عم بقدم على كل الجوبز وما عم بعرف عم اعطوني return offer انه full time انه صير engineer و that's how it happened يعني فت لعندهم عندهم different racing teams بس انا كنت ريد بول فان فطحشت كثير على that team والحمد لله.
كيف كان البروسس لتفوت
ليك يعني لل
فول تايم
internship كان في شيء 3 انترفيوز للفول تايم كان في شيء 4 فوقهم فتوتال عمل لي شيء 7 وكنت شغل معهم شيء 6 اشهر يعني كمان.
طب وشو بيسالوك بالانترفيوز كانوا لهالبوزيشن يعني؟
بيسالوك كثير technical questions
كثير technical
انه you have to know your shit يعني
تخصصوا بالسيارات وبالقطع وبالانجنز
مش سيارات specifically اذا بدك engineering concepts يعني هدول كثير like a lot of design companies
دينا واحدة
اعطيك واحدة مثلا بيقولوا لك انه عندك هيدا السيستم وانه في الشافت قول تبع بالباور ترين when it reaches مثلا this temperature when it's overheating the sensor قول is انه عم بيصير معه هيك
هيك قصص بدك تكون
بيعطوك سيناريوز
اذا
بدك كيس ستادي
انت كونسلتنج
هو اذا بتريد
انت كونسلتنت هاي كيس
ستادي بس
للتكنيكال يعني انجينيرنج بيعطوك كيس ستاديز بعدين بيقعدوا بيسالوك like personal questions هيك انه بدهم يعرفوا شخصيتك تشوف اذا compatible مع الكومباني كلتشر هيك اشياء يعني انه اشياء شوي جينيريك يعني.
حلو. هلا قبل ما نفوت بالبيهايند ذا سينز وتخبرنا قصص maybe nice experiences
فورمولا 1 ضروري
على قد في يعني accolade حابب احكي عنها وهي الفوربس 30 under 30. Sometimes يعني هيدا إذا we want to translate it to NBA to football sometimes when someone wins like this kind of recognition they have 2 options يا خلص بيقولوا انه هون خلصت انا هيدا هو my maximum وانا هلا صار فيي ارتاح لانه خلص صار عندهم شيء فيهم يلقوا عليه او بقولوا لا now I'm hungrier because هيدا الشيء كتير حيفتح لي للمستقبل وهيدا هو مثل شيء حيعمل لي cementing لماي position in order to achieve more in parallel give me more confidence. How was this experience of being listed on Forbes 30 under 30 and how did it positively affect your steps ahead?
It's funny that you bring that up انه ترتاح بعد فوربس لانه انا بعد فوربس الستارت اب يلي انه فوتتني لهونيك فيلد
فلازم بس هي فوربس 30 under 30 يعني انه ما فيك توقف من بعدها انه ما بتعطيك شيء.
انا ما كنت يعني حتى ما كنت سنيكر كنت فالو يعني انه it's like the ones that are like up and coming اذا بدك
it's like names اذا بتوقف انه
لا هي مش
قصة وقفت كل شيء
هي مش قصة اكتر توقف قصة خلص انه انت شبعت انه اوكي طلع لك فوربس 30 under 30 ما تضلك ماشي بدا سيم بيس ما تضلك طالع بنفس اللاين على الجراف تاخد هيك شوي تصير كونسيستنت انه انا صار عندي شيء ففي انه اخذ وقتي مش ضلي اكزيكيوتينج.
فهمت عليك. هو صراحة it wasn't even one of my goals يعني it just happened إنه لما when I was 19 إنه we were working on like a B2B product إنه for banks and someone from the bank was telling me oh you should be إنه you should get on Forbes he referred me to them بعدين I just got إنه هيدا الفالو فهيك it just happened صراحة يعني إنه at the time يعني حسيت people were very impressed by it بس إنه إنه ما بعرف إنه I didn't think that much of it because I hadn't achieved anything yet. فهمت قصدي انه I was like on the up and coming guys
هي
فبس رحت what it helped with انه I met a lot of people there وكلهم عندهم that like hungry attitude فأكيد it did make me hungrier بس كمان على فكرة one funny story about إنه how people thought it was bigger than it actually is خيي كان عم ياخد الSAT ببيروت شي شهر بعد ما أنا طلعت على هيدي إنه عم أعطيت الانترفيو وقتها بفوربس بعدين بيجي واحد لعنده ما بيعرفه خيي بيقول له أنت إنه خيو لكريم هيتاني بيقول له إيه بيقول له طب شو بيك قاعد عم تعمل SAT ما خيك على فوربس
ما هي بيفكروا انه خلص
انا كنت بعدني مش عامل شيء
صار على فوربس يعني خلص مش حاله صار يقعد بالبيت
جوابك كان على القد يعني اللي انا متوقعه لانه شايف هالمنتاليتي فور اكزامبل انه فوربس ما عملت لي شيء بس مايند يو some people might say انه لا انه انا على فوربس بضلوا يستعملوها لسنين لقدام انه هن عملوا شيء بس شايف لانك يمكن انت ما حطيت فوربس big part from you so you continued normally
يعني ما حتى ما حتى حطيتها على my resume يعني انا حتى وانا ما كنت حاططها اول شيء بعدين في قال لي ليك ما بتحس it could help
يلا بنحطها طب هلا فت على الفورمولا 1 اخونا عيتاني خبرنا عن الاف 1 خبرنا شو الفريق اللي بتشجعه خبرنا عن predictions هالسيزون صار له ماكس فيرستابن ربح 2 سيزونز ان رو حيربح الثالثه
انه شكلها ايزي حيربح
ايزي هلا هو انت زبطت له قطعه بالسياره
هو ليك خليني لك شيء ثاقبت
ايه
السنتين يلي ربحوا فيها ريد بول انا كنت انجينير بهالسنتين
سبحان الله
انه
اعطيتهم الفاونديشن وهلا حيربحوا كمان هو انت اعطيتهم المبادئ للرد بول ليقدروا ينجحوا طب ليك اول ما فتت كيف كانت يعني were you told us عم بتسافر وعم بتشوف الدرايفرز فكيف كان الانتراكشن معهم كيف كان الشغل معهم مين عندك شخصيات لئيمه انا كمان قطعت على درايفرز بعطيك رايي كمان بس انه بدي اسمع رايك انت اشتغلت معهم اكتر
هلك صراحه انا كنت حب ماكس كتير لانه من ورا هيز اتيتيود انه كنت بتشوف كل حدا انه مثلا دانيال ريكاردو هيز ا جود درايفر بس انه كتير همه بوب كلتشر وهيك
سعيد ريكاردو
انه بيحب يظهر ويسأل
بس
he's a nice guy
he's a very nice guy but I feel he's not focused enough
exactly
not focused like he could have done so much
يحب الجو يعني
انه ايه don't you feel he's a wasted potential
yeah
حرام
I feel like he could have been a great driver يعني لما كان مع ريد بول كان حيربح وقتها موناكو جراند بري وكان عنده هدول
بعدين الديسيجنز اللي اخذهم غلط انا حسيت
بس انه
كيف ترك ريد بول ورجع كيف ترك رونو
exactly he's cool but it's not the attitude I would want from an athlete that I'm supporting Max يعني ما بيعمل شيء بس انه بياكل بيشرب بيطلع على السيميوليتر he trains وبينام he races
انا كثير بحبه لماكس نمبر 1 فان بس كمان انا I support Red Bull I'm with Max بس مثلا
لما تشاكو لما مرة ولا تشاكو
exactly يطلع الثاني ويطلع
agree
يعني هون بينت كمان
هاي شوي محل
selfish صراحة أنا I love the attitude of Lewis Hamilton بيعقد الزلمة the guy I love the guy بس Verstappen is a killer mindset
exactly
but he doesn't give a shit about anyone he's not a good teammate
he's willing to do anything to win anything
he's not a good teammate
and that's what I feel like you need from an athlete and you need someone that's إنه عن جد
killer
exactly you need a killer يعني هو ماكس هيك يعني إنه في هذا ايرتون سنة he was the
Senna was very good
he's the one of the most يعني well known drivers arguably the GOAT يعني arguably
بعد هاملتون the GOAT هاملتون the GOAT بعدين شوماخر بس I think Verstappen is gonna take both
debatable
of them
يعني أنا بحكي driving style wise شو اسمه هو قال إنه if there's a gap that you see and you don't go for it مثلا on the track you're not a driver anymore it shows you the attitude تبع سنة إنه it's very very aggressive إنه فهمت قصدي any gap he sees he's willing to go in even sometimes he put himself in danger يعني to take these opportunities كنت حس ماكس عنده the same attitude Hamilton had that attitude من إنه أول ما فات عفوا بعدين هيك راق شوي
لأن كان عنده أحسن سيارة
he was hot-headed he had by far one of the best cars ever يعني arguably one of the best cars in history يعني Mercedes had 2017 2018 it was such a good car يعني yeah
بس الاكسبيرينس كيف كانت كمان يعني what هيك type of let's say experience you went through مع drivers برك ما بعرف لو اشتغلت شيء مع المانجرز ما بيقولوا مانجرز بيقولوا دايركتورز
انه فيك تقول يعني انه مانجر
شو الكلمه في برنسبل
تيم
برنسبل exactly
ف بس بدك على تيم برنسبلز actually توتو وولف كان فند مانجر اشترى بهز فوند 33% of Petronas وحط حاله team principal وربح like 10 championships in a row يعني.
كيش يعني.
that's a nice dream يعني.
definitely.
بس إيه أنا أول مرة رحت كان على بحرين pre-season testing وكل 3/4 درايفرز بينزلوا بنفس الأوتيل درايفرز والتيم وهيك. ثاقبت إنه أوضتي كان دغري حد أوضة لكلير.
وطا كانت حد لكلير ولا نيالو لكلير
طلعنا نازلين على ننزل على بريكفاست قعدت هيك حدسوا هيك انه فهمت قصدي it was just هيك انه شوي هاي اول ما بلشت انه كنت شوي هيك اذا بدك شوي ستار ستراك يعني تقول انه اف انه كل هدول العالم بتحضرهم على التي في ما انت عودت لها يعني. بس اكثر مره كنت ستار ستراك بفورمولا 1 ما كانت على ولا حدا درايفر ولا شيء كانت على تيم كوك بتكساس. انه كنت ماشي وماني منتبه عم طلع على ماي فون بعدين هيك انه نكذب بنكس واحد ببرم تقول له سوري بعدين بيقول لي انه دونت وري بقول له انه ار يو تيم كوك هيك انا ملبك فهمت قصدي
انت تيم كوك.
اتس لايك ا like 12-year-old girl seeing Justin Bieber يعني انه كنت هيك انه حقارة.
كيف كانت الرياكشن؟
قال لي انه يس هيك كان عم يضحك قلت وانا خي ما عارفين شو بدي اقول له فهمت قصدي قلت له انه what are you doing here بفتكر ابل تي في طلعوا they're shooting show with Hamilton وقتها وراح وهي waved the flag انه تبع اخر الريس.
احلى شيء عيتين عم بيقول له لتيم كوك شو عم تعمل انت شو جايبك.
that was a cool interaction وقتها. اكثر بادوك كان فيها بس celebrities كانت الميامي جراند بري كان في مثلا فيرل ويليامز سيرينا ويليامز وفينوس ويليامز مايكل جوردن ديفيد بيكهام وكلهم بيكونوا قاعدين بهذا البادوك كلوب فهمت قصدي فيو كان easily interact مع كتير منهم. فايه انه you see a lot of like هيك cool personalities يعني هونيك بس هيك بعدين خلاص you get used to it يعني.
It's obvious مرات كتير experiences بالفورمولا 1 يعني انه واحد بيشتغل بالفورمولا 1 sometimes عالم تحضر بتقول اوف شو بيصير قصص ليك هيدا شو عم بيعمل I wonder شو بيصير behind the scenes. شو في شيء هيك مثل maybe an underrated takeaway أخذتها من فورمولا 1 that's not like obvious to the public.
An underrated takeaway ليك صراحة بعد هذا the show Drive to Survive تقريبا it goes into everything يعني انه قبل كان في كثير اشياء that are private اكيد في secrets بين التيمز و انه اذا بدك a takeaway انه كثير بيصير في poaching بين فرق انه it's not as clean as you think the sport is انه it is a pretty dirty sport. العالم بيجربوا يسرقوا data من بعض بيجربوا يسرقوا employees من بعض انه they offer like مثلا ريد بول بتروح عند اقوى فريق مثلا لما كان مرسيدس doubles the salary of like an engineer بتقول له انه ايه تعال عنا فهمت قصدي انه هيك اشياء like I feel like هيك the dirtier aspect of it
is underrated.
like yeah
hey man this sports كتير وسخة بيضربوا يعني كتير في backstabbing بتحس خاصة من teammates لبعض بعد اوقات مثل ما قلنا تشاكو فيرستابن يعني
هو لانه اذا انت عم تخسر ضد اي حدا على الجريد بتقول انه ايه سيارته احسن بس when you and your teammate are in the same exact car يعني انه ايه اذا بتخسر you're the worst driver ف no one wants to be in that position everyone wants to be the better driver. في argument بيقولوا انه sometimes they design a car tailored towards someone's driving style فبتساعد شوي بس انه
it's the same car
yeah
بس it requires focus.
تعرف بيكون في milli seconds difference between الأول والعاشر بالqualifying at least يعني qualifying when they rank the cars that are gonna start in the race first second third fourth to 10th بيكون في milli seconds difference كتير بدها sharpness يعني they're fighting for the milli
فت بالحيط يعني
that's an amazing sport أكيد amazing insights. بس لنفوت شوي بصلب الموضوع أخونا عيتاني الهيدج فاند مانجر يعني مثل ما فهمنا F1 كمان helped you to start your hedge fund career because you were able to network meet the right people ليحطوا المصاري معك ويأمنوك فيهم. كيف بلشتها؟ أوكي لقيت investor بس what are the steps you took? Were your parents okay أنه أنت تترك الأف1 شجعوك ما شجعوك كيف بلشتها كيف أسست الشركة كيف كبرتها how do you market أصلاً a hedge fund company
قبل ما نبلش أي حكي عن finance بس بقول I'm not your financial advisor. This is not financial advice.
ما في شيء هون ما خص يعني this is definitely not financial advice. هون نحن we're sharing thoughts, we're sharing insights بس كل شيء بتعملوه عم
والله my lawyer بيكون عم بيحضروا وعم بينبسط إنه قلت الجملة. فإيه basically تتبلش انه اكيد you have to have a track record انه تقدر to attract clients او ما حدا يحط معك and there's no reason and you have to have a strategy, proven strategy that you've been following for a while. It's getting you good returns at a decent risk level. انه it's not all about getting the best returns انه فيك تنزل على الكازينو تعمل like 10 times your money. But see, it's about like a risk reward ratio. You have to have a healthy risk reward ratio to your strategy. So that's one thing. And أول شيء set strategy, هيك good principles, good basis. بعدين to register, technically you could register a loan, but I don't think anyone ever should. لازم تجيب a really really good lawyer, good accountant, structure properly. وأنا the only way I was able to bring هدول lawyers and accountants is لأنه بهال4 سنين I was trading I had raised a decent amount of capital by the time I graduated, so I can spend it all on lawyers or accountants. حتى أنا عم بشتغل يعني من my salary كان يفوت روح أصرفه بعد على set up وعلى كل هدول fund activities. فأي good lawyer for good structure, good accountant. بعدين بتفتح تعمل لك هيك pitch deck كل هالاشياء يعني كل الماتيريالز lawyer بيعمل لك كل agreements قبل ما تعمل اي شيء تبعت ايميل تكتب deck تبعت deck سأل lawyer لانه financial industry is if not it's one of the most heavily regulated industries you can do يعني انه you can be in. مثلا اذا بدك تفتح اي بزنس ثاني بامريكا بتطلع اونلاين بتعبي ابلكيشن $70-$75 خلص you have an LLC ويلا انه روح بيع عمول يعني انه ايه اكيد في اشياء صغار that you have to take into account بس انه كتير اسهل. financial institution you have to register with the SEC تكون هيك regulated يكون عندك auditor fund administrator انه حدا to process the clients يعني you have to have everything انه very solid انه فهمت قصدي كل شيء على البكلي لازم يكون. that's why it's انه a bit difficult. بعد ما I got past كل هالprocess وطلع الapproval وكل everything was filed رجعت عند قلت لك القصة هيديك اللي فات وقت I quit. بعدين رجعت عند my old investors قلت لهم ايه
صار فيني اخذ مصاري
فايه وكل الجروث كان through referrals word of mouth يعني انه حدا حاطط معي he experienced all the returns انه he or she experienced the returns على 4 سنين. بعدين بيجي بيقول لرفيقه انه ايه هيدا عمل لي هيك بحط معك انه هيك كان كثير word of mouth. وبعدين مثلا everything's like transparent يعني انه هلا اذا بيطلعوا على SEC ويب سايت they can look up my fund وبيطلع لهم كل فهمت قصدي انه الفول documents وهيك اشياء فالعالم بيرتاحوا انه at the end of the day انه you want to sell people انه اول شيء بدك تعطيهم safety انه تقول لهم انه their assets are safe انه good bank heavily regulated industry انا مثلا registered in the US فانه هيك انه المصاري ما فيها انه تروح من محل لمحل البنك is safe تعطيهم هذا انه الcomfort. بعدين بدك تفرجيهم performance at a certain risk level يعني مش انه تاخذ crazy risk crazy performance. فهدول الاشياء عاده بيريحون. بعدين ثالث شيء انه بدهم they have to like trust you they have to like you مثلا فهمت قصدي
safety performance security و safety نفس الشيء I would assume strategy
strategy اكيد يعني تا يشوفوا قد ايه عم بياخذوا risk. if everything checks out ساعتها عالم بيرتاحوا لك. in regards to advertising في كتير laws regarding انه advertising
ما فيك
funds فايه انه
كثير صعبة it's more network and word of mouth
ads وهيك out فايه اكثر network و word of mouth.
طب واهلك كانوا supportive ولا كيف؟
هيك انا اهلي كل حياتي they were very supportive بكثير اشياء الحمد لله it's one of my biggest انه privileges يعني اذا بدك. بس لما كنت اترك انه I was in a very good job and I was doing great انه فهمت قصدي انه it was my dream job I was having great time great culture انه كل شيء pay شو ما بدك best my favorite city بامريكا كنت بسان دييغو كمان عم بشتغل وقتها انه everything checked out. فالاهل بينبسطوا لما يشوفوك قاعد بهالقد in a comfortable position. So when I told them I want to quit وروح افتح على الفند انه naturally as any concerned parent would انه they didn't want me to just like هيك leave وقالوا لي طب انه جرب اشتغل على اثنين بنفس الوقت. هيدي كتير عالم بيجربوا يعملوها by the way انه full time job و startup و I feel like انه at one point it's impossible and you have to either go all in على startup or drop it يعني. فايه انه اكيد there was resistance يعني to leave بس بعدين when I made the decision و I left انه صاروا انه they support my decision وهلا انه they're انه I always lean back on them كل ما يصير معي شيء هيك my dad gives me a lot of advice انه he was like kind of in sales إذا بدك a lot in all his life so a lot of his skills are transferable لإلي فهمت قصدي. now they're extremely supportive يعني حتى من الأول يعني they always like gave me the confidence to do it but they just didn't want me to leave that position that I was in.
أنا بدي أحكي عن الاتش اللي أنت عندك إياها كريم لأنه مثل ما قلت إنه you are very comfortable okay you are very comfortable you are working in a very like lucrative job إذا بدنا نقول best city whatever you wanna do you can do بس لا عندك شيء by heart اللي قال لك إنه لا I wanna do this I see myself doing this is building up this is my destiny. أنت كنت عم تقوله لوليد شو هن القصص التكنيكال اللي أخذتك لتفتح الشغل بس هن ما بيعرفوا the passion and the insanity you went through by learning more listening to podcasts. How was it يعني gradually building up وخلص believing in it و manifesting it لتعرف وتوصل لأنت شو أنت اليوم؟
ليك صراحة إنه it's good that you bring that up لأنه the toughest part of doing this wasn't all the technical aspect ولا إنه everything I just described it is difficult بس إنه anyone can do it with the mental aspect was the most difficult إنه دائما تقول إنه am I up for this should I wait 10 more years جيب MBA يفوت على الاندستري هلا كل حدا حيقول لي إنه ما عندك experience بقلب بانك مثلا بقلب like بانك فكيف بدك تفوت معي وهيك إنه كيف بده يحط معي مصاري فأكيد كان في هيدا إنه the mental game يعني بس I read about a lot of other hedge fund managers عندك مثلا Ray Dalio started at 22 Ken Griffin started at 20 شو اسمه تبع Pershing Square he started أول ما تخرج فشفت a lot of other examples that did that بعدين ضل كل حدا يقول لي إيه بس هيدول إنه they're like the 1% قلت إنه أوكي طب why can't I be the 1% فهمت قصدي إنه anyone could بس إنه فأكيد the mentality كان كتير مهم ومثل ما قلت لك friends and family around me كتير أثر على like the confidence I had to launch and start و إنه there was a lot of صراحة different things يعني حتى there was a show that I used to watch called Succession إنه هيك it's also like إذا بدك finance related إنه they do like a lot of mergers and acquisitions وهيك after I watched an episode it would like drive me crazy تقول إنه if that's so exciting هيك بعد بسمع الثيم سونج تبع الشو يعني طول الوقت فهمت قصدي بيقيمني بصير بدي اشتغل لما اسمع it's like I'm hypnotized by it إذا بدك فايه انه it was tough يعني حتى انه غير like work aside I was going through some things مثلا that year انه it wasn't like smooth sailing بس انه it was always about like انه اوكي هيدي الابسك خلاص I pass it يلا I'll pass the next one انه كان عندي saying امي دايما انه هيك تمسخر علي في انه دايما بقول انه ايه كل شيء كله بيتدبر يعني فهمت قصدي انه I always had an attitude انه ايه كله بيتدبر
كله بيتظبط
we'll figure it out انه هيك فهمت قصدي انه even though انه ما بعرف شو حيصير بعدين ما بعرف what the next obstacle is which you usually don't ضليت تقول انه ايه خلص تتدبر I'll figure it out يلا هيك وايه اكيد it comes with being very well informed on what you're doing and like the confidence aspect which is like built along a long time.
أنا ليه بنبسط وقت تقول هالقصص لأنه حتى تحت الهواء تقلي إنه أنا مثلا I had sleepless nights I was working all day كنت في الصبح بحب تو هايلايت قد ايه عن جد واحد لازم يكون disciplined و obsessed وهيك مثل in a healthy way هيك إنسان إنه he wants to attract it لأنه sometimes when you give yourself justifications حيلا شيء صغير حيلا مشكلة صغير you succumb to being a victim of this justification. بس in your case
ما لازم تحط حجج بوجهك
ما exactly هي مثل ما انت قلت it's an obsession انه بتحس عن جد you're losing it انه انا يعني طول الوقت كنت عن جد انه I can't think of anything else كنت احلم انه عم بحكي مع my lawyer مرات انه عن جد تقول بيك شيء انه عن جد انه صرت انه بتصير مريضة على شوي انه you lose your mind
هيدا على كونر ماجريجر بقريب بعت لي اياها
صح
بعت لي تاني ريل انه كونر ماجريجر عم بيسالوه شو كانت تعرفها اكثر مني
انه بيقول ايه شيء like انه you said Vincent van Gogh lost his mind in his art
حدا بيساله هيك
ايه وانت you lost your mind in the sport انه describe it بعدين بيجي بيقول انه ايه at the end it's all worth it انه بيحكيك عن the process بعدين بيقول لك at the end it's all worth it بس انه ايه انه عن جد انه ما كنت افهمها تا انه I left the job وخلص بطل عندي هيدا السيفتي نت كتير صرت انه دايما هيك بتحس انه اوكي اول شيء you have to perform لكل حدا no mistakes ابدا you cannot afford يعني انه big mistakes with
كريم حكينا شوي اكثر على الفاينانس على الماركت كيف يو انفست كيف اذا مثلا هلا انت ما بتعطي ادفايس بس اذا حدا سالك how should I invest as an individual كيف يحطوا مصرياتهم فانت كيف تتعامل شو استراتيجي تاعتك بالهيدا بالهيدج فاند وشو استراتيجي مثلا لو شخص عنده سيفينجز وبده يحطهم شي محل
that's a great question I get it a lot يعني دائما كل حدا بيسالوني انه اذا بدهم يفتحوا بورتفوليو لحالهم مثلا انا minimum investment عندي 100k so a lot of people want to invest but they don't want to put up like the 100k ticket فبيسألوني إنه best advice إنه from me and personally what I would do if I wasn't doing the fund حتى يعني لو انا كنت engineer هلا انا personally يعني انه I would invest in the S&P 500 personally. This is not financial advice. But the S&P since 1940 till now, it's been averaging 9% annual. فانه it's هيك very good performance. but عندك كمان انه risk wise it's relatively safe instead of like picking your own stocks. مثلا اذا بتقعد تنقي 2-3 stocks انه you're putting all your eggs in like a few baskets. بس بال S&P you're diversified across 500 companies. who S&P 500 basically it's like 500 selected companies in the US. They're like some of the 500 like biggest companies. Usually they're profitable. كلهم you're buying the basket of these 500 companies. They're distributed along like set ratios يعني. فإنه إيه because you're very diverse, you have a relatively lower risk level than you just picking out the stocks. 90% of funds don't beat the S&P along a 10-year span. فإنه إذا هني with all that research they're not beating إنه أنت while you're stock picking بالبيت it's tough to beat on the long term. يعني a lot of people would beat it مثلا قول سنة يمكن حتى سنتين 6 شهور يعني شو ما كان. So on a long term as you want something very passive, I like it إنه the S&P مثلا 30 years ago if you deposited $1,000 you put it up like $500 a month in the S&P just regardless of the price يعني the first of every month fee بتحط $500 بتنام عليهم. 30 years later you'd have around $2.5 million if you're compounding يعني
30 or 30 years later?
I think 30 yeah.
30 yeah.
I'll double check the math يعني بس
لا for sure.
فإنه with that rate إنه it's a good passive investment. You don't have to worry about it too much. إنه that's what I would personally do.
The S&P 500. وأنت what do you personally do بالhedge fund?
Okay, what I do with hedge fund is basically around like 90 to 95% of the portfolio. It's called like a long short strategy. إنه بشتري like 20 to 30 max companies that I pick مثلا based on like the old school traditional methods of like all stock picking. You know, I look
Warren
at
Buffett
financials, balance sheets. It's like close as بدك to the Buffett method. It's been giving me decent returns over the past 4 years. إنه هيك I don't trade regularly مش إنه every week buy and sell وهيك أشياء فهمت قصدي.
And they compared
it's
to
mostly
the
buy and hold.
S&P.
For 2018 to 2022 I think the S&P averaged like 15 point something %. One of my averages was just under 23.
Wow.
Like around 23. So بس كمان the market was doing great بهال4 سنين يعني ما فيك تنسى. فبس هذا انه على قبل ما افتح الفند يعني this is not on audited fund statements. هذا انه قبل ما افتح على الفند بس I'm following the same strategy. هذا كنت اعمله مع تذكر لما قلت لك انه كنت عالم يحطوا معي مصاري انه بس unofficially وقتها. That's when I used to do that يعني. الفند هلا January 1st launch يعني. basically that's the vast majority of the portfolio.
80 to 90% هيك بتجيب stocks.
Like 90 to 25 كمان.
Okay.
At this moment it's 100% يعني in this moment. بس 5% عادة I buy biotech medical device IPOs قبل ما before they go public. يعني في كتير investment banks قول مثلا Goldman Sachs, Think Equity مثلا مرات بيعطوك allocations على IPOs وانت بتشيون بعد انه كم شهر they go public. بعدين انت بتشوف هيك بيطلع الداتا تبعهم. I bring in like انه experts in the field مثلا doctors that are in the field of exactly what the biotech or medical device company I'm investing in. انه I make sure انه everything's like I make very informed decisions وقت اعمل هدول pre-IPO لانه they tend to be more risky.
حلو.
مثل ما قلت لك research experts كل الاشياء FDA database مثلا بطلع كل البروسس تبعهم. بعدين لما when everything checks out and I'm very very picky with this portion then I go in. مزبوط it's a bit riskier but it gives you like better returns. The rest of the portfolios are relatively low risk to protect this يعني.
For sure.
No, it's hedging يعني. It's a hedge fund.
Like in it, انت 4 years it was performing really well the US market. هلا كيف؟
هلا last year نزل I think over 20% يعني. It was poor.
Last year 2022.
وكمان إنه عليوا كتير الانترست rates فالعادة growth slows down when interest rates are high. إنه بدك تفكر فيها إنه مثلا the cost of borrowing money increased. People are going to borrow less. When they borrow less, they spend less. مثلا in the business, you spend less, you grow slower. That's like the basic reason why increasing interest rates مثلا will slows down the economy. فايه مزبوط نزل بس هلا انه it's been recovering. I think year to date it's up like 11-12% يعني ال S&P فانه we're on the recovery road. Some people say انه the worst is yet to come. بس صراحة انه you always have هدول Armageddonists اللي بيقولوا لك انه ايه خلص حتخلص العالم وفرط الماركت يعني, وبيضلوا عم بيقولوا هيك على شي 7 سنين و they're not investing لانه حيفرط الماركت بكره. بعدين لما يفرط الماركت بيقولوا ها I told you so, بس بهال7 سنين انت مطلع يعني almost 100% on your investment. فهمت قصدي؟ فايه there انه coming up هلا انه ايه مزبوط it's a bit shaky windy يعني اذا بدك. بس that's why انه حتى بالفند مثلا I protect انه I hedge my positions انه مرات بشي like something they're like insurances اذا بدك options على positions just to protect against like headwinds like انه that are expected in the future.
غير الستوك do you invest in anything else or يعني شخص جديد بده ما بيعرف وين بده يحط مصرياته should do you think they should keep them in a bank? Do you think this يعني انت قلت S&P 500 it's your area. Do you think commodities they can buy gold, silver, or I don't know maybe كمان oil or something like that?
Gold's always good يعني it's like the traditional inflation hedge.
Real estate
إذا بدك real estate is great. بس هو كله depends on how much capital you're willing to invest و how much you're willing to risk. مثلا someone's like 65 مثلا ما بقول له ايه تعال حط invest in the S&P بدك شيء هيك انه even lower risk. Someone around low 20s 30s even حتى خي 40s انه S&P along like if you want to retire at 60 20-30 year period أكيد is not advice but no, I would be comfortable with it. أكيد bigger investments real estate أكيد is always great يعني إنه كل هدول asset classes are good بس إنه I guess my advice would be to diversify. Like just don't go all in S&P, don't go all in real estate, don't go all in gold. Just هيك have like a healthy diversified investment portfolio.
شو رأيك بالكريبتو؟
Okay. A lot of people might disagree or take offense to this, but I really don't see the value. Like I've read about it a lot. I've heard all the talks وكل هالأشياء بس إنه
Bitcoin going to zero.
Ray Dalio. Listen.
Bitcoin going to zero إلنا.
Ray Dalio, the founder of the biggest hedge fund, Bridgewater.
Yeah.
Okay. He said Bitcoin's biggest threat is its own success, which means إذا Bitcoin مثلا succeeds مع هيدا البلان اللي كل حد بيقول لك إياها إنه money is gonna be decentralized, we won't need banks anymore ومدري شو كل هالحكي بتعرف هدول decentralization, then it will fail لأنه حيكون في heavy regulations عليه at that point. يعني imagine it's threatening a country's currency, a country's banking system. You think regulators will just let it slide like that? I don't personally think so. Some people think that it would. بين العالم بيقولوا لك إنه ما it's fast لأنه you get the transaction in seconds. But the reason you get transaction in seconds is because there's no compliance. يعني هلا with our current banking system or our current softwares أكيد I can get you a transaction in like seconds, minutes. But the reason it takes time is لأنه في compliance. يعني إنه بدك خلص تفلت يعني وكل حدا يقعد money laundry و drugs وكل هالأشياء. فهمت قصدي إنه ما بيمشي الحال بلا compliance و centralization. وأنا I like centralization. I like institutions. I like banks. A lot of people don't. يعني إنه I don't think everyone should even. But I'm like that's my personal opinion. So that's why I'm you could say anti-crypto.
كنا عم نحكي هلا انه كنا عم نحكي انا S&P طلعوا 2022 قد ايه كانوا 2023 قد ايه صاروا. بس انت كريم عيتاني if you were given a time machine and you wanted to visit a financial period, which period would you go to? How do you think when you go to this financial period it will influence your decision making or the insights you will learn from?
What would you invest in if you would go back?
What's like an interesting هيك financial
بس
period
أنا لو
that you would visit to gain insights?
تسلا ميبي تسلا ابل حيلا واحدة بس بيتكوين لو رجع انا كنت بدي اجاوب على هالسؤال.
يلا نسألك من بعده.
انه هو لو اشتريت بيتكوين اول ما طلع بيا بليونير يعني
برو كاس طلعت لقد $66,000 1 بيتكوين.
I think so ب 2000
وقت الكوفيد. بس انه
انه
اذا اشتريت شي ماشي 10 منهم كنت
اكيد you'd make a lot of money. So if I can go back and invest even though I'm a big proponent of Bitcoin بس انه
كنت اشتريهم وبيعهم.
كنت اشتريته وبعته يعني knowing what I know now يعني even though I don't believe in it. بس إذا بدك an exciting time للماركتس كان لما بلش إنه يصير tradings like computerized وهيك أشياء كانوا عم بيطلعوا من البروكرز إنه on the trading floor وعم بيصيروا إنه هيك you trade at home وهيك. I feel like 80s و 90s were like هيك a fun time in the markets if you watch like these movies.
ما هو هيك بدك تعطيني.
بس كان على الورقة والقلم كان على الورقة والقلم وقتها.
إنه بحس الجو كان حلو يعني وقتها إنه إذا بتطلع there's a book called Liar's Poker. It talks about إنه like an employee's experience in Solomon Brothers. They're the ones that created mortgage-backed securities that in a way kind of caused the 2008 financial crisis.
They did it?
Like
okay.
واحد عندهم اسمه لوي رانييري. when you read إنه كيف كان الجو بالأوفيس عندهم وهيك it sounds like very exciting. إنه there's no like هيك إنه it's like كيف بدي أقول لك it's very primal إذا بدك. It's like a jungle إنه eat or get eaten وهيك وكل حدا rises إنه عشطارة وهيك فهمت قصدي إنه how they play the game يعني
مثل Wolf of Wall Street هيك شيء.
It was less orthodox. وقتها I like هيك لما إنه you know
يكون في تكسير على بعض competition كمان بين العالم.
Competition I feel like brings out the best in people. وقتها هيك it was more aggressive. So I feel like the vibe then was pretty exciting.
يعني عطيناك تايم ماشين رحت لنا على الجنجل و 80s و 90s. هلا إذا عطيناك the power to create an app or a board game, financial board game, you had the authority or power to build and design it, what would the mechanics of this game be in order to entertain and engage the player to learn about the world of finance?
Okay, that's interesting question.
Super interesting.
Okay, because it has to be educational, I would give them access to do مثلا to implement different types of strategies and try it out. One strategy that's very exciting, but I don't advise people to do it. I don't do it personally because I believe it's a zero-sum game. Is هدول short-term options trading. Everyone thinks they're going to become a millionaire trading options short term انه مرات بتشوف يعني 1000%, 8000%, 10000% بقول انه خلص I just need to hit once or twice خلص I'm a millionaire. بس people انه tend to overlook the risk in this game. ف it ends up مثلا اسبوع بيجي انت عامل 1000%, الاسبوع اللي بعده خسران 90%. ف انه بس it's fun يعني people find it very exciting. So I'd want them to try like to test like riskier strategies مثلا in the game. So like it's a game of risk إذا بدك. You want to take this much risk, you could potentially get this much reward or this much loss. And then هيك it lets you test different
simulator يعني.
Exactly. إنه مش إنه إيه إنه إذا you want to gamify it قصدي يعني. I don't know exactly what the concept of the game would be.
في بعد في هيك
إلا ما يكون في
where you gamify the stock market more or less يعني. Where you mimic it.
إيه بعدين إنه eventually they learn إنه in my opinion
that's not
buying
the
and holding is the way to go. Buying healthy companies with healthy financials. إنه هيك it's like
هو بعتقد Warren Buffett. I think you told me this before إنه he outperformed another hedge fund where it was like literally rising بعدين.
Yeah, في fund اسمه ARK Invest. In short يعني her strategy إذا بدك is like riding waves. يعني إنه شوف كل شيء every hot stock you see on the market بيكون هن بيشتروه. As you look at their graph مثلا over the past like 3-4 years, there's a graph like it's circulating on Twitter. I'll send it to you. You can display it. It shows you إنه Buffett's graph is like slowly, steadily on an increase. ARK Invest is like skyrocketing. فبتقول إنه everyone during that time when like everyone was up شو اسمه Berkshire was like slowly increasing. Everyone's like okay إنه the Buffett strategy is outdated. وهو ومونجر are dinosaurs وكل هالحكي يعني إنه إيه خلاص إنه it's a new time now وخلاص this is it. إنه هذاك old school traditional way is not it. بعدين الماركتس adjusted راح everyone realized and everything was overvalued وكل شيء. رجع ARK نزل وات مات Berkshire بعدين نزل تحته Berkshire still it's the classic slow and steady wins the race. You know the rabbit and the
rabbit and the turtle. السلحفاة ضل عم تمشي شوي turtle لابان انا بقول فرنسي لابان بيروح شمال يمين وكذا
مهضوم وليد لما يقول لك
بالبالو الفرنسي اولاد
بالبالو.
انا باي ذا واي فرنش اديوكيت كثير عالم بتستغرب من هالشيء.
طلع على الكاميرا وخليهم يعرفوا.
Je parle français très bien.
Allons,
J'avais des
lapin,
amis
okay.
parisiens et
Ahmed,
j'étais dans le groupe des dispensés. But là, exactly. Well, I think it applies to many things in life. Yani, even if you want to begin a startup, you want to study for an exam, like slow and steady wins the race. You have to be committed. You have to be persistent and continue working to achieve your results.
Agreed,
for sure.
كمان do you believe you have to be rational؟ لأنه next question موجه لهالشيء. Do you believe in rationality؟
To some extent يعني انه لا حقول لك ليه بس very quickly انه the most rational thing is to stay in your career in your job وتضلك عم تعمل نفس الشيء بس انه to establish a startup is not the most rational thing بس كمان توديك ل results.
I think there's a fine line between emotional bias and investment sentiment. Sometimes the wrong mix and match can backfire and create a backlash. How do you manage your emotions when dealing with S&Ps, taking into consideration...
What do you mean S&Ps? Stocks?
Stocks.
Oh, okay.
How do you manage dealing with stocks, taking into consideration that the market conditions sometimes might be volatile?
No, yeah. Also, you have to know, it's not always going to go in your favor. If it did, almost everyone would be a millionaire if the market can always go in your favor. I feel like I always try to like detach from it emotionally, no matter how emotional it can possibly get. And regarding like investment-wise, مش إنه taking risk. Like investment-wise, I also like to think as rationally as possible, which is I think influenced by my engineering background, because engineering is very logical, rational, mathematical. So دايما هيك إنه I do take advantage of people being emotional on the market a lot. It's one of the things that makes me the most profits. And a lot of times something happens on the market. Well, I'll give an example right now where like, hey, there's negative news مزبوط. The stock بيكون على this news deserves to go down like a couple %. But because, especially this happens mostly with companies that have a high percentage of retail investors. The public own a lot. هو في شيء اسمه institutional ownership و retail ownership. مثلا في شركة قول they're 90% owned by institutions هدول ما كتير بيتأثروا emotionally because institutions are not as emotional. بس بعدين عندك مثلا تسلا it was 70% or 60% owned by retail investors by the public. في هدول they're very emotionally driven. كتير هدول stocks that have high retail ownership. فلما يطلع negative news بدل ما ينزل هالكوبل percent it like crashes. It gets like it goes way below what it deserves to get at, in my opinion. So then I see like amazing buying opportunities بالأشياء. I always like to look out for emotional crashes on the market. هذا like investor psychology and I like to try to take advantage of it. مثلا Visa مرة they announced إنه Amazon مرة announced إنه they might not take Visa in the UK. Visa نزل من like 230 ل like $180 okay stock price in one day. That's like billions in value. The amount يلي نزلها Visa is less than the amount that they make from Amazon in revenue per year. Assume Amazon did take like Amazon UK. Assume Amazon did stop taking Visa. It wouldn't affect their revenue as much as people and as much as the price reflected. So I was like, this kind of looks like an easy buy. For sure. And then just like 2 weeks later, like a couple of months حتى, it recovered like now it's at like 220, 230 فهمت قصدي؟ هدول ال overreactions بالmarket, if you know how to be very rational and composed فيهم, you can do great
ليك شو أكتر KPIs بتطلع عليهم بالشركات؟
That's a very big question.
Why?
Because there's way too many factors that I look at. I look at everything from مثلا basics, the balance sheets وال cash flow statements up until where the corporate jet is flying in the US. مثلا بقول if they flew here هون في الهيدكوارترز تبع هاي الشركة فشكلهم they might be meeting with them for a possible joint venture أو شيء. فهمت قصدي؟ it's like I try like every bit of data I can get on a company I look at it. like I feel like that's the game and you have to try to get as much data as you can to make your own conclusions. But you also have to remember إنه almost everything is priced into the stock. يعني إذا Apple are gonna announce like a new product مثلا in 6 months, everyone knows that. So the stock price reflects Apple announcing a new product already. فهمت قصدي؟ فإنه كل هالأشياء يعني they're priced in. So you have to try to
بس
come up with your own conclusions.
ما بتطلع على KPIs مثلا قد ايه الكاش فلو عالي قد ايه البرايس تو اكويتي يعني these type يعني في شي 2-3 KPIs that really stand out. Of course the more data
price to equity stands out a lot. I like debt to equity too. I don't like companies with high debt and over 30% 35% debt to equity ratio. It has to be like a great business so I can be like interested in it as a bit. كمان حتى ال debt and you have to see if it's مثلا it's cheap debt. أي rate اخدينه مثلا إذا أخدوه at COVID the interest is extremely low so they have like cheap money إذا بدك. إذا أخدوه هلا rates are higher. كثير أشياء يعني إنه بيقولوا free cash flow.
هيك بيقولوا cash is king.
free cash flow especially بهالmarkets. free cash flow especially بهالmarkets where إنه في كثير volatility و interest rates عم بيعلوا. إنه it's a very important metric in my opinion يعني everything above is بدك 4% free cash flow.
حلو كتير.
It's nice
حلو كتير.
وليك with the rise هلا technology advancements و digital innovation. تسأله؟
لا بعتقد أنت هتسأل سؤال.
with the rise of digital innovation.
AI. حياخد محلك ال AI ولا ما؟
بس قبل ما ننقل على AI وأكيد ask him these interesting questions بس بدي أعرف هولي إنه with the rise of digital innovation و technological advancements how do you see it embracing the future of hedge funding?
Okay, Falek, there's a lot of very big hedge funds that have been using computerized trading for a while. And the Cranston's technologies they perform amazingly. Solon came in a while in the game. 2 Sigma is also a big fund that use computerized trading. So it's been working for a lot of funds now. The new question is, would AI stock pick وهالأشياء? A lot of people have tried.
هيدا وليد بدي أعرف.
And a lot of people have tried. مثلا there was this ETF called ETF. It was called AIQ. It's powered by IBM Watson. It was like 4 or 5 years ago maybe. وقتها IBM Watson was the most powerful like.
بس هلا صار في قصص أحسن بكتير.
هلا في
Chat GPT أحسن من IBM Watson.
لا مزبوط. إنه هلا في قصص أحسن بكتير بس عمل لك وقتها they tried didn't work out too much. هلا عم بيقولوا إنه Chat GPT will be beating إنه fund managers بس إنه Chat GPT only has data to 2 years before.
They're connecting it to the internet.
They're connecting it to the internet.
الموديل الجديد اللي طالع.
So we'll see how it plans. بس دايما you can't for now at least or for the foreseeable future I personally think it's a bit difficult for AI to factor in the investor psychology وهالأشياء إنه it's still very like all data بتطلع مثلا how many times it was mentioned on Twitter إذا بدك بتشوف قد إيه عالم عم بيحكوا عنها. But still إنه there is room for it to improve. Maybe one day in the future, 10 years, 15 years, maybe it gets to a point where it's outperforming fund managers at a similar risk profile. So I'm hoping by then I change my strategy. I know my long-term goal is to be a activist investor.
Private equity.
لا. Activist investor. They invest on public markets. It's like Bill Ackman and Carl Icahn. They try to buy like over 5 or 10% of stake in a company. Sometimes they buy it like secretly, it's a bit dark. And then when they acquire that much stake, they like sue مثلا for board seats. They try to get board seats. They restructure management, fire bottom performance, restructure the companies, and like they create value with their own hands. But to do that, you need to have like over $1 billion, $2 billion minimum, in my opinion. That's my goal, and I want to bring up the value of companies with my own hands مثلا. I feel like it's exciting.
بعد 10-15 سنة بيكون عنده $1 بليون أخونا العيتاني.
قد ما يرتاح لأنه أول حدا بقول له إنه لا it won't replace إنه بعد في وقت.
لا نحن عنا في AI expert عندهم chat the Arabic chat GPT Arabic AI سام من أسبوعين طلعنا حلقته. فباسيكلي هو عم بيقول إنه AI واصلة بكل النواحي.
مزبوط.
Yes.
يعني حتى اجاك تبع جوجل اللي بيقولوا له الجاد فاذر اوف اي اي the danger is imminent واجاك واحد تاني كمان قال لك the danger is imminent وهول experts اي اي بيفهموا اكثر مني ومنك باي اي اكيد.
بس هو ليك to be honest كمان about that specific point انه هذا danger is imminent انه CEO تبع Palantir said this like I think a month ago on CNBC شوية هيك I saw his point كان بيقول إنه the reason all these big corporations are trying to like slow down and regulate and say danger about AI is because they still didn't figure out how they want to approach it, so they're trying to buy time فعم بيقول لكم it's dangerous let's pause it وهيك أشياء. So I'm not telling you I'm of that opinion, بس في هيك وجهة نظر in that aspect إنه
في وجهة نظر.
No, maybe they're trying to figure out their positioning. But about activist investing,
إلا activist investor.
I know. I just want to mention one thing. I've always been very, very interested in it. After there's a documentary about Carl Icahn. I watched it. But he said one quote that made me very, very excited about the industry. He's like in his mid-80s now, and he's still going into like proxy battles with different companies who he's still trying to acquire. He's worth like $20 billion. فهمت قصدي إنه and he can just retire very comfortably. ويقعد فسألته الانترفيور بالdocumentary قالت له إنه why are you still at it يعني إنه فيك تروح تعيش حياتك تعمل شو ما بدك you have all this money. فبيجي بيقول I enjoy the hunt more than the good life after the victory, which I feel like is the reason he's that good. You know, if he were just doing it for the money, as in like almost anything else, when you're just doing it for the money, you tend to give up earlier. You tend to like not do as well. But when you really, really enjoy it and you're very passionate about it and like it like drives you crazy, you're obsessed with it, then like you can do better.
For sure.
ونحن دائما we preach إنه it's all about the journey, not the destination.
Definitely. لأن هو you need to be passionate about the journey ولا ما حتوصل. كريم ما بعرف شو إذا بعد بدك تزيد شيء بس amazing insights you provided for us today. Thank you very much. بدنا نشوف لو بدك تعطي بعد نصيحة for anyone watching. حيلا شيء you think that would benefit them.
Like one thing that I've been getting asked about a lot, and I was considering bring it up. It's about like people are afraid for the dollar. تعرف إنه كل حدا عم بيحكي هلا إنه BRICS وحيعملوا their own currency وكل هالأشياء. Everyone's worried about the dollar. So I wanted to just like mention some data that I read on The Economist. That could maybe like cool the concerns down. أكيد you can say I'm biased because I live there my funds there بس
لا بس في آخر النهار there's numbers, there's stats, there's data
so yeah, these numbers are from The Economist. It says the dollar is involved in nearly 90% of foreign exchange transactions. It's in high demand لدرجة إنه going from euro to dollar to Swiss franc is cheaper than going from euro to Swiss franc directly because it's in high demand on both ends. Yeah. About half of cross-border debt is dollar denominated, which is imagine debt between like half of debt in all countries between all countries is in the dollar. But the dollar accounts for 60% of global reserves, central bank reserves. Oof. So it's not in the interest of almost anyone for the dollar to collapse. Not even like in my opinion, not even in China's interest. In these autocratic governments, some people don't feel comfortable keeping large amounts of money in the bank. فif مثلا let's say the yen took over بيصير like Chinese people can transfer like yen anywhere they want. I feel like a lot of Chinese billionaires, I've read about this before, they because of their fear from like all autocratic government مثلا they kidnapped Alibaba's CEO مثلا for 6 months like a year or two ago. هيك أشياء. They'd want to get their money out so it would collapse like the Chinese system. So the yen substituting for the dollar. So I feel like even China doesn't want the dollar to collapse. It's even like most Gulf region countries, their currency is pegged to the dollar. In my opinion, like the dollar concerns,
dollars is here to stay. For at least for the upcoming future.
For the foreseeable future, I think it's still very strong. كمان مرة قريت واحدة this is a bit aggressive though إنه كانوا عم بيقولوا the BRICS currency might be backed by gold, but the US dollar is backed by the military. So you can see شوي a point there. They have like diplomacy backing them, not just like gold. Sure. So BRICS currency is still not like set. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about it for the near future. Personally, a lot of people might disagree, but the numbers, in my opinion, say otherwise. So yeah, that's one thing I'd wanna.
One last thing. وزالك أنت in this field of hedge fund. Do you really need money to make money, or can you make money without money? لأن أنت بفيلد إذا ما في مصاري ما فيك تعمل شيء.
In this specific field obviously not. بس and other things أكيد you can يعني إنه ما بنحكي big amounts of money بس مثلا as we go back to the car stories مثلا the flipping cars in the US it made decent profits and the investment's like a couple $100, you know. But if you have a skill that you can provide, you can make good money off it. يعني software engineers مثلا freelance, build apps, whatever, you're making money from your time, you know. You either have a very strong skill, مثلا even with the cars thing, it's a skill to be able to fix them, you know. So if you have a skill that you can monetize, then you don't need like too much money to make money, and sometimes not even money at all. On a larger scale, يعني when you're in, you know, like minimum investments are pretty high, and it is easier to, it's definitely easier to make money when you already have money, يعني. أكيد.
I think it's very well said. Karim, just to finalize, إذا في واحد عمره 18 سنة بده ياخد نفس الراوت اللي أنت أخدته، شو في شيء يمكن تعلمته أنت بدا later stages معقول نصيحة تعطيه هلا يطبقها عم بكير؟
أول شيء don't go all in like I did.
don't. لأنه العالم بيقولوا go all in do it.
لا قصدي إنه money wise إنه لما قلت لك لما I bought the car إنه ما تحط كل شيء معك يعني إنه هيك
أنا paid off for you.
أنا الحمد لله I think I got lucky with that one. بس فأكيد I have to mention that. بس you have to find something basically at the end of the day that you're very very passionate about, because when you're passionate about something, I know me and my friend were talking about this the other day. He has a startup too, and when you're working it doesn't feel like work. You know, sometimes that you enjoy it so much لدرجة إنه بتحس حالك غلط إنه ما عم تشتغل بس بتقول إنه لا بس this is work. إنه فهمت قصدي. Find something you're very passionate about and like obsess over it. Seek good guidance. يعني do listen to people's advice. يعني ما حقلك إنه ما تسمع لحدا وبس فوت وعمول شو ما بدك. لا إنه lots of people have very good insights. Your parents do care about you, so they do want the best for you. You have to also take into account, you know, they tend to be more conservative. بس إنه listen to the right people, follow the right track, obsess, be passionate to, yeah, it should pay off.
Thank you, Karim.
Amazing.
Thank you for your time. بدنا هيك تطلع على الكاميرا تقول always have a higher take.
Always have a higher take.